Think big, think even bigger. Take some risks. God's got your back. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't ever have regrets in your life. Go fail. Go grow from those things. Live your life.
Your identity is not defined by your successes or your failures.
If you're not happy where you're at, you won't be happy where you're going. Choose to do the things that will make you the person you want to be, that will make you a better person next week and next year.
You're going to have to leave some things you're actually good at behind so that you can find what you're wired for, what you're born for.
Being a world-class entrepreneur is being in every area of life excellent.
It is the little things that are so easy not to do.
The best thing that you can do is assume the best in people.
I want people around the world to believe they can do something great with their life.
If I build the biggest business, but I destroy my physical body and I lose my health, I don't think that's success. While you're on the journey climbing to success, never forget the things that matter most.
If you like this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified every time a new episode is released. Welcome back to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Frederick. Today we are joined with Britnie Turner. Britnie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
To give you guys a brief background with what Britnie Turner is up to, she's founded the Ariel Development Group in 2009. It's a Nashville-based group. Ariel focuses on revitalizing urban neighborhoods, both residential and commercial, through infill and renovation projects. With their declared mission for empowering people, sustaining the planet, and utilizing capitalism as a force for good, Ariel now owns 5 other companies and is known in Nashville's real estate market for converting neighborhoods on the fringe zone of development into fast-growing and livable localities. They rebuild the rundown homes in these localities and associate with businesses who are willing to invest commercially in these neighborhoods, thus increasing the market value of these areas. Ariel was listed by Forbes and by Fortune as the 6th fastest growing women-owned company in the world in 2016. Fortune also listed Ariel as the 3rd fastest growing inner city company in the United States in 2016. To be more concise, Britnie uses real estate development to create hope in hopeless places. She lives asking herself the question, how can everything in her life help people? Very excited to have you on. Share with us gaps from that intro.
All the pain, probably. It sounds really sexy, but this has definitely been a tough journey. And so I like to share that so that people don't feel weird when they go through their own really tough times. But it's always been rooted in purpose for me. I was very blessed to find my calling at a really young age. You know, I found my passion at 12, and then I found my buckled down, nothing's going to stop me reason at 17 years old. And that has been the reason for the fast growth and all those amazing awards, because if I didn't have my why figured out, there's no freaking way that I would have been able to overcome the kind of things that I've had to deal with. So
we start out the show with a favorite success quote or a saying or motto that you live by. Share with the audience what you got and what it means to you.
With every obstacle carries with it a seed of equal or greater opportunity. In the last couple of years, in some of the hardest times I've had to go through ever, instead of giving up and saying, oh, this is punishment for something or whatever, I'm like, no, there's a seed of equal or greater opportunity here. So I just have to find what this is and realize this is going to work out for my good. But I don't have any idea how yet. And then I've got one I don't want to mess up, and it's from Buckminster Fuller. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. I think as a very passion-filled millennial myself, it's interesting that in us, and even with using social media, we want to fight something that we don't agree with. And instead of becoming a hater activist with all the horrible things that I've seen in my lifetime, I just build companies that change what is and vote all the other crap off the island. So you'll never see me normally yell or fight about stuff in public. I just go build a business that solves the issue and let people understand, yeah, this is definitely what we should be doing versus that old model.
So why Ariel?
You know that God gave me that name at a red light.
I love that.
like 2 years before I ever thought about starting a company, and in a totally different state and city. I didn't know what it meant. I thought it was going to be the name of my first child, and it was. So the name Ariel means to really exist and create above the rest, which means it really stands for excellence. But it also means to keep the big picture in mind. So every day, I always talk about you've got to find ways to keep yourself awake, to keep yourself aware of what matters most. And for me, the name Ariel, every single time I see it, I think about this little girl that was really sexually abused. And when I looked in her eyes and I realized that in the country she was in, she had no way to ever get out of this horrible situation. But I could do something about it if I just freaking tried, because I'm in America and it's not that hard. If you just focus, we have so much access to opportunities. So I realized at that moment, if I could execute on these opportunities for those who had none, I could find a way to end this abuse for that person. And I could have been that little girl. And so the name Ariel reminds me to get out of my little situation, pull myself out and remember why I'm doing this. Yeah, it's that Ariel view. And so I've got it on everything. Obviously, it's our company. It's all over. We've got the swag and all that stuff. But literally, there isn't a time that I see that name that I don't think about that girl.
It's not only just about seeing the bigger picture, but realizing that that little girl could be any one of us.
Yeah. And I would have wanted somebody to do that for me.
100%.
It's a lot of pressure, but it's a good pressure.
I'll say, man. I was speaking, like I told you before the interview, I was speaking with Jeff Hoffman, one of the founders of Priceline.com, and he said his favorite success quote, one of them, is, "There is no they." Like, why don't they they should do something about it. The government should, or the organization should take responsibility to live up to that higher standard. Would you share a story of what led you to accept the responsibilities that you have? Because it's not normal. It's just not. It's admirable. And I find that so many of us could do so much more if we were able to put ourselves aside and look at something that really matters. And like you said, any one of us would want someone else to do that for us.
The biggest thing was meeting that little girl, literally looking in her eyes and seeing, I've never seen complete hopelessness before.
Complete hopelessness?
Yeah, there's not a really easy way to explain what hopelessness looks like, but when you see it, you can feel it, and it rocked me. I've seen a lot of some of the worst issues known to man. I mean, I worked 5 jobs from the time I was 13 on so that I could go on mission trips. And I saw a lot of horrible things, and I got really frustrated. And I felt bad because I'm on a mission trip and I shouldn't be feeling like this angry. But I knew I wasn't really solving something. And so I've been on this journey just asking the Lord, how do you really solve these issues at their root, and what is it coming from? And I found that a lot of them are coming from poverty. And there's a lot of different ways to address that. But instead of just throwing money at it, how do you throw opportunity at it? Every business that I have started has actually just been, and most people don't know this, they're all tests. They're all practice to learn how to work in developing nations. And how do you solve poverty at its root so that you can eliminate human trafficking and all that stuff? So it takes a little bit of pressure off. I mean, I would definitely do anything before any of my investors lost any money, because I can live in a car and make it back. But it's always about a bigger picture versus like, this is my end all be all. It's always to learn. And so when I started my career, I was living in my car on and off for about 9 months, and I worked for free.
What kind of car?
To learn. It was a Mustang convertible. It was cute. I got a good deal on it. I had a job before.
What kind of convertible?
A Mustang convertible.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And
living large.
So it was really tiny, and all my crap was in trash bags in the back seat. Yeah. But, you know, with the power of makeup and dry shampoo, nobody knew I was in that car. So, you know, I figured it out. But yeah, Again, I don't want to complain about what's out there. I just want to figure it out. I'm in a season now where I'm working with other people who are on the same mission, and I'm so grateful that I've got inspiring spaces to whiteboard and actually solve this. And I don't have anybody in my life. I'm proud to say this. I'm currently, for the first time ever, have nobody in my life that isn't on a mission to change the world, and they don't believe that they can. I don't have a network of people that don't think they can. We can, and we know we will, and we're just doing it. And so it's interesting, you know, everybody says that you become whoever you're around. It is so beyond true.
Yep.
And all these people are rock stars that are amazing, that know their purpose, know their calling, and know that their life and their social media can change things for real if they're just intentional.
You shared in one of your recent speeches, you said, sometimes what you're going through isn't just for you. Would you touch on what it means to you?
You never know who's watching you. There's a lot more people watching you than you think. And the people who are really mean to your face will still go home and think about what you say.
Yeah.
I found, because I've been that mean person before, you realize in your darkest moments is actually where champions are made. That's the only time anybody tells stories about anybody later, is how they rose above in that horrible time that everything looked like it was falling apart. And so sometimes that you're going through something that you are just getting a powerful story that you're going to share later. You don't even know why. And that story is going to be the thing that pierces somebody's heart and changes their entire trajectory on life, because you were able to overcome something that then gave them hope. Gone through a lot, and had I not understood extreme levels of pain, I couldn't empathize with people or understand or even have strategy and business strategy on how to overcome certain things. So I want to encourage you that a lot of people think they have to be perfect. I'm very open about absolutely not being perfect. I have a very imperfect life, but I'm not going to give up. And that's the biggest difference. Is it's imperfect and it's hard, but you don't give up, because you have to find a reason to live, and you have to realize that your life is not just about you. I actually think that we're on this earth, and I think that I don't want to say that we're judged, but I think that at the end of the day, based on what you were given and what you were exposed to, what did you do about it? What did you actually do for those people? That's a heart test.
Yeah. Wow. You follow John Crist?
No, I don't.
Okay. He's actually, he's a comedian. He has a relatively famous phrase he says, which is check your heart.
Yeah.
He does it in a Tennessee funny way, like check your heart. But that's a serious heart check. Yeah. Yeah, John Crist. I want to delve into the richness and power of relationship. Everyone knows the Jim Rohn quote, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. What action steps would you recommend I take to facilitate connecting with great people along the way? Like, how do you become, you mentioned also in one of your talks, you mentioned getting rid of the little things you were judging people on, being honest with yourself about that and saying, what's up with that? That's holding me back. I got to stop doing that. So how do you become aware of and discard those negative filters?
You lose your own grace and then you go through it yourself and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's why that doesn't work out. Or that is why people do this. So I find if I don't act in love and grace first, then I end up having to deal with that until I can act in love and grace. And it's not that God punishes us. It's that I've raised my hand and asked to do a lot of things. And if I'm going to do that, then I have to have love and grace in those situations. So I can't remember your question now. What was your question besides that?
The first part of the question was, what action steps would you recommend tactically that we take to facilitate connecting with great people along our journey?
First one is, if it works, do it. So the first one is for your really high level people you don't think you'll have access to, make a vision board and put them on there. And then ask yourself, why do you want to meet them? Is it because they're randomly famous, or is it because you resonate with their values? If it's the values one, which is probably the right way to pick them, then figure out what is it about their values that you like, and actually write them out and then see the common denominators of the people you want to meet. And then look at those people and say, why would they want to be my friend? And that's not in like a sad way to think about it. It's like, how can I be a person that would create value in their life? And how can I hold my own in a conversation? I really woke up to this because Tim Ferriss was on my vision board and I got to meet him. Like,
talk to us about that. Wow.
I was at a Tony Robbins conference and he was in the audience, and I was such a nerd because I loved Tim Ferriss. and I went up to him and I got to talk to him for like an hour, but all I could think about the whole time
How tall is he?
Well, we don't want to talk about that in case he's watching, but Tim, you're great. I didn't measure your height. All I could think about was, Rick, I need to read more. Oh my gosh. All I could think was, I've got to read more, because this guy was talking about concepts and things that I've never even heard of. I was so embarrassed. Wow. And the same thing with hanging out with Richard Branson. I mean, he's the kind of person that sits around. When you ask him, why did you start Virgin Galactic? It's because him and his friends were sitting on a beach looking at the stars and saying, why can't we go up there tomorrow for brunch? Well, it's too hard, it's too expensive, and it's too dangerous. And I'll just start a company that makes it easy, safe, and inexpensive. Yep. Boom, Virgin Galactic. That's how you start that. Well, what are your 10-year goals for Virgin Galactic, Richard? Well, we're definitely going to have Virgin hotels around the moon. They're not going to be on the moon because of the gravitational pull, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be able to go up there with your family for maybe $100,000 for about 7 days stay and have a lovely holiday. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to dream bigger. And so Figure out, what do you need to adjust? It's not that you're losing yourself, but it's that you're maturing yourself, because people at high levels that you want to be like have no patience for people who sit around and gossip. Like, no, sorry, we don't do that. People who inherited a lot of wealth and never had to earn anything in their life, they might sit around and talk a bunch of crap because they never had to overcome something. But the people who are self-made, that are people who want to be like, the people who want to hang out with, and they have the mindset of changing the world, they don't put up with the BS. They don't sit around and watch TV for hours every day. They don't fill their bodies full of crap. They don't fill their mind with crap. They're staying inspired. They're pushing through obstacles. And so you got to analyze yourself and just see, what are the bad habits that I have to drop in order to even be able to sit in that circle for more than 2 minutes.
I want to pull that thread. Everyone listening already meets those prereqs, so to speak. At that point, just other people we come into contact with in our daily lives. Doesn't matter if it's like whoever it could be at the grocery store. That could be your next business partner, your future spouse. Assuming all that stuff's already present, like that's a prereq. Assuming that, at that point, then what can we do to facilitate connecting with great people along the way?
Well, one more self-assessment thing in order to continue to raise your level. Again, it doesn't have to be super famous, but you're going to attract people. And who do you want to attract into your life, either as a life partner or as your friend group? One of the things that I've learned in order to level up, the fastest way to see what you need to drop is everything that you run to when you start getting stressed.
Yeah.
So when you start getting stressed, are you running to Instagram, alcohol, boys, TV? What are you doing to veg out because you're too anxious and stressed? Literally, that's your checklist of what you have to let go of to go to the next level. So it's really, that's like a fun, easy way to assess yourself.
Question to ask that I use is, where do you run to hide? For people of faith, it's not good to go hide in devilish vices,
right? Because
that's who you're up against. So you're literally using that to dress a wound that's going to, instead of heal, it'll cause it to fester. So
right, yeah. On a practical basis, once you are, you're on your growth path. I go to a lot of conferences. I go to Necker Island every year because I've got a group that I go with that are some of the most incredible entrepreneurs ever, and they literally have TED Talks every day of the things that they're passionate about and how they're changing the world. And so I know you were going to ask me about loneliness as an entrepreneur. I don't have a ton of people that I hang out with every day. I'm not that person. I'm a global person. I'm all over. I've got 5 companies, but I have global friends. And when I am with people, that is my intentional small friend group that I really want to pour my life into. It's so quality, and it's so connected, and it's so aligned, and there's so much synergy. It's not that we work together, it's that we're changing the world together. And some people think of that as work. And I'm like, that is my fun. You're not going to see me getting trashed in a club. I mean, that's just not going to be the way that I have fun. I have fun by living my calling. So it's easy. You could feel maybe a little lonely on a daily basis, but you just kind of got to know time and place. If that makes sense.
It does.
But that's where my friends are.
Can you talk to us about the success of your company, Ariel Development Group? What excites you most about this project?
It's lots of projects, and all of them actually came from going back and forth to Africa. We were in Kenya, and we were building an orphanage because that was my original purpose for getting into it, was flip enough houses to have enough money to buy an apartment complex, to have cash flow, to tell everybody else to suck it, because I can afford to build my own freaking orphanages, and I don't need to ask you for money.
Don't have to fundraise anymore.
Yeah, no, that was literally it.
Yeah.
That was my whole point in the beginning. But going back and forth and actually working on building out the second orphanage we were working on, we picked an area that's the worst spot ever. His parents were selling their kids into sex trafficking for $25. $25 for selling their 2-year-olds. The worst. I mean, that's how desperate they were, which is why we were picking this spot. Just because we tied up the land and helped him do the land deal, and then I helped him create the site plan. This is the group I was working with. And I had no idea I had all these transferable skills, by the way. Again, I was just in real estate to get out. And then I helped him recreate a family model by designing the architectural plans super different than just warehousing kids in one building. And then I helped him do a market study on, do we do a tilapia farm or a chicken farm? Do we do tomatoes or asparagus? What are we going to grow over here to where this orphanage can be self-sustainable? So I was shocked on a couple levels. One, I'd been learning things that were going to help me in my real long-term calling forever that I didn't even know God was sneak attacking me with. And two, when we came back a year later, we found that this entire area is booming. Like literally, this was the worst spot ever. It was the worst area ever. And we came back and we found that all these businesses had moved in around our orphanage site. And when we asked them why, they said, well, if the Americans are investing here, there must be something we're missing. And so that was really the first time that I saw you can create hope in hopeless places through real estate development, because there's activity. And then this was now one of the wealthier areas because all these jobs just moved in. And so I thought, oh my gosh, how can I practice this in my own backyard in some really rough areas that people don't believe in? And this was really early on in the urban revitalization of Nashville. I was one of the only people willing to go over there.
So talk to us a bit about, you didn't want to have to ask for fundraising, you want to raise your own money. For anyone listening, even for myself who is curious about real estate, were you just brilliant at this right out the gate? Did you have, like, is your dad a developer? Did you have connections with your uncle? Like, what was it that you used to learn this market, to learn how to master real estate initially so that you could then go out and transfer those skills in Africa?
Great question. Nobody in my family was into real estate whatsoever. I don't have some rich daddy that taught me anything in this world of real estate development. I wanted to learn. This was in the height of the recession. I would call the "We Buy Houses" signs and ask to work for free because there wasn't a college that taught how to do this. And every single person I called, because I don't watch TV, I actually didn't know there was a global economic meltdown. I thought it was just me being a failure. When I called them, get out of the market.
You don't like that
Nobody's
word,
in real
huh?
estate anymore. I was like, I need to learn this because I wanted to do this orphanage idea I had. And so through a crazy set of circumstances, I found some rehabbers that, again, I'd moved to Nashville, got fired, couldn't tell my family, moved into my car. But the day I got fired, I actually had offered to work for these guys who were doing real estate deals for free. In exchange, I would learn. And so they let me find them deals. They let me learn how to design them because I know I'm a girl. I had not one designer bone in my body. I had no vision. My sisters were really good at style. I had none. Anyway, by working for free, I could learn in a safe environment how to find projects, which ones to say yes to, which ones to say no to, how to manage a crew. I was a 21-year-old girl that was not taken seriously in the South. The only thing they could research about me is that I had done some pageants, which was not fun. Being in the construction world, I'm like taking you seriously. So how do you arrive with grace and not have to become a total man and be taken seriously? And it was through excellence, honestly. I did have to work 100,000 times harder than any other guy in the business, but who gives a crap? They had just never seen that what a female was capable of doing in this business. So I just showed them, and behind the scenes, I just never freaking slept. So that's how I got in. It was finding people I want to be like and finding a way to create value in their life and bless them before I just take. And so I blessed them. I made them a lot of money. I found them a lot of projects. I brought them investors, and I learned. And so that first year, I made nothing. But the next year, when I did my first project by myself, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. I mean, I got robbed the day before closing, doors kicked in, everything went horrible. But after I did my first deal by myself, I actually became the biggest rehabber in Nashville over that next year. And then I became the biggest infill developer over the next couple of years as well, because I know how to work to learn versus have to earn. Again, this is a big picture journey for me. I want to develop nations. I want to work on the worst issues known to mankind, and I want to freaking eliminate them from the face of this planet by figuring this out. So this is all practice. This is tough, but who cares? There is a big picture to it. And I get to live my life serving and creating a way for people who otherwise have no opportunity. So that's what I'm dedicated to, and that's what wakes me up in the morning.
So you're driven by that.
Yes.
When you're this type of individual, it can be incredibly challenging on your life, on you as an individual. How has your faith helped support you through the darkest times?
It's not even helped me. It's not even helped support me. It's the only thing that I'm standing on. It's the only thing I have.
I like the word carry.
Yeah. I mean, if God wasn't real and I didn't know Jesus myself, then why does anything matter? For me personally, that's my thing. What are we going to do? Just die and go into the earth? Like, no. I have a very real relationship with God, and having his guidance and knowing that no matter what happens, he's never going to leave me. Unlike even some of the closest people to me in my life, he's never going to leave. He's never going to abandon. He's always going to work it out for good. He's never going to stab me in the back. Obviously, knowing that there is God is, humans are so unreliable. It's not that you walk around not trusting. It's that they're humans and they have their own insecurities and filters of pain. And so knowing that there is the almighty God of the universe that controls everything and can do anything, and him being on your side and loving you, that's amazing. That's enough. And every time I get off track with that being my source, I learn really quickly that that's the only source I can rely on. So my relationship has gotten so much deeper with him, just seeing how when everything goes to crap, he just shows up in a powerful way. And I'm in a really interesting season of redemption right now of everything that I thought was lost and some of the biggest dreams I thought had died. He's bringing them back. And I'm realizing his timing is so perfect. Just don't give up on that. Call it back. Call it into order. Continue to never say that something is wasted. Just say this will work out for my good, and God's timing is perfect. And it's hard when you're the leader and you're supposed to freaking know everything and tell everybody where to go and what to do at certain times. And even when you have investors and stuff, you have to know it all, and you just don't. That's one of the hardest things is having to trust God's timing and yet lead others. It's a really interesting delta I have not figured out yet, except for to be transparent and say, I don't have all the answers, but I will watch it all come together for good. And we're on this journey together. Let's keep actively trying our best, but God's timing is perfect and this will work out.
Have you found, and this is very interesting, just through my personal journey in life, I've found the kindest and the most giving people doing the most and making the most impact in this world are oftentimes fellow Christians, fellow people of faith. Have you found that to be true?
I have.
That's really beautiful. And what's interesting too, Britnie, I didn't think that. I thought that we were a minority, that we shouldn't stand up for it. I'm the first person to raise my hand and say I'm a hypocrite every day. I'm not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. But the biggest thing with this, guys, whether you are or not, is for the people of faith listening who maybe feel stuck, when you realize that God wants you to do well, he wants you to do well. He's making plans to prosper you. And I'm not talking about just be rich and sit in your house and getting smoothies delivered to you. I mean, he wants you to do well. His plan is always the best plan. So as it plays out in your life, trusting that process, even though we don't know the answers, is so important. And like you said, Britnie, being transparent in that process, especially from a leadership perspective where everyone looks to you for the answer, it can be so freeing to know that God's got it. Would you agree with that?
It is. It's just stressful when it's a stressful thing, especially with like social media. Everybody wants everything now and transparent and to see everything you're doing. And it's like, can I have less? I have, my background is in waitressing. I'm figuring this out every day. I love sharing that with the girls in my Ariel produced company. They're young, they're in their 20s, and I share with them every day. I'm like, look, we're all figuring this out. You are worthy. You do not have to be a certain age or gender to be trusted to do big things. Just be willing. And at the end of the day, Jonathan, if you all take one thing away from what I share with you, you can figure anything out. We have Google, okay? There is nothing you can't learn in today's world. Just be willing to type it in, you babies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm just meditating to the process.
No more venting on this episode. The next question, what are your thoughts on learning from people who have gone before you so you don't have to waste time learning the same lessons? Let's say somebody is on a very similar path to you, Britnie, as you were in your early 20s with real estate, right? With the motivation, with a pure motivation, pure intent. There's no shame attached to it. What are your insights from having gone through that? What's been the most impactful business lesson that you've learned that you wish you knew when you were 20?
Oh my gosh. Well, quick to answer your first question, 100% believe in finding a way to serve people who are farther along than you don't just freaking mooch. I have a million people ask me to teach them stuff, but they're not willing to sacrifice anything. Literally, my last 3 hires had offered to work for free. And I'm like, I love you. You've got the right heart. And it's not about saving money. It's that the fact that they want it bad enough that they're willing to put it all on the line and earn it and prove it. And so that's something I probably shouldn't have announced because it's totally a heart check. But
also helps the bottom line.
Oh my! Well, no, I end up always paying them. But the point is that people saw that I was hungry and that I wasn't here to take. One of the most powerful things is God starved me out for the first 3 years from 18 to 21. Totally starved me out. Didn't let me make a dime. Worked my butt off. I had no sleep, but that like hunger, that little survival taker spirit inside that's like, I have to survive. That broke off of me because I realized how much I could live without. And I would find people that were farther along and I would find a way to serve them. And I would literally find out what they're passionate about. And in a non-manipulative way, how do I further the causes that give them the reason to wake up in the morning? And so when you can do that for people, why would they say no to having you in their life? Why would they say no to pouring into you? And you wouldn't want to be like them if you weren't already passionate about that. So it was easy to serve them. The first guys that I worked for free, they literally wouldn't tell me what they needed. I would have to sit in the car and listen and take notes, find ways to create value, or I knew I couldn't sit in that car with them anymore. And so I've done that not only with them, but every time that I go to learn a new asset class or a new type of business. So if I'm buying apartment complexes, I find someone that's done it before. I partner with them. I give them most, if not all, of the money, and I get to be around them and learn during the project. And I tell them, I'll do all the work. You just tell me what to do. Who cares? Everybody else, I'm not doing that for nothing. Yeah, guess what? You're never going to freaking be anything in life either. And I own 1,000 doors as a side business in 2 years. Why? Because, you can grow your net worth crazy by serving others and learning in that safe environment. I'm naturally not a very organized person, but guess what? My business required it. So I became organized. So don't hide behind these labels or these ridiculous personality tests or being an introvert or extrovert. What do you need to be? How do you need to change in order to become everything that you want to be? And just adapt. Do it. Stop being lazy. So serve your way into having mentors.
Providing value for the listeners, I don't think any of you would do this, does not mean giving something to someone that you want them to accept so that they feel obligated to reciprocate. That's manipulation. Right. That is not providing value.
Right.
I like to drive that home.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, also people of any kind of experience can sense it.
Absolutely. So, in a sentence or two, what has been the most impactful and useful business lesson?
Oh, man, I have so many.
Well, feel free to rattle a few off.
An easy one. I don't want to say it like this, but it's the only way I have to say it. It's like die for your investors. Pretty much, if people are willing to put their money where their mouth is, make sure they don't lose, even if that's not the way your deal is structured. Don't let them lose. I've lost my butt a million times to make sure that people get paid back, even though, even in the beginning, it's like shark loans and they knew the risk and all this stuff. It's like, no, I don't care if they knew the risk. Like, I want them to invest again. They put their money where their mouth is. I made a mistake, or I could have done this better. Or I didn't know. I find a way to pay my people back. And so I had a contractor steal $1 million really early on in my career. I had 8 rehabs going. And this guy took all of the sub payments for like 4 months and pocketed them. And they were over $100,000 every week. And
subcontractor payments were over $100K a week.
Yeah. I mean,
he was pocketing.
They're $1 million a week for me now, but they were $100K a week back then. And he pocketed it and didn't pay the subs. And he told the subs that I didn't pay him.
Unreal.
So I had to close a couple houses before I could pay him. So they kept working. And then he kept going over budget. And then anyway, I busted him in one day. He ran off. He stole the materials off the job sites. I had to redo all the work because he had created fake building permits. And I had to rip off roofs and rip out entire additions on houses because nothing was done correctly.
Do you remember your age at this chapter?
23, 24. And it ended up being $1 million it cost me And I thought I was going to die. Oh my gosh, that was so much money because I didn't even have that to lose. And I had worked 18 to 21 hours a day for years at that point. And I was so tired and I was so stressed out. And all I wanted to do was roll over and die and run away. But all I could see was that little girl die. So I'm telling you, that's the only reason I didn't quit. But And it was interesting because you never know the decision you're going to make until you have to make it. And I was really proud that I, at that moment, couldn't think of me. I only thought of those investors. So that was good. I'm proud of myself for that. But I put my boots on. I went out there. I figured out who had been paid, who had not been paid. I repaid everyone. I re-pulled those permits. I got the houses finished. And even though I was very open with my investors, I said, look, this project is going to take a little longer, but it's going to happen. And by right, I could have just thrown the keys at them and walked away. But I finished those projects. I lost everything I'd ever worked for. And it was like 3 or 4 years. It was so painful to lose everything. And I thought that nobody would invest with me ever again. But 5 months later, I was 5 times bigger as a company. And that's when we started winning all these fastest growth things, because all my investors went out and told everybody, no matter what happens to Britnie, she's going to protect you.
Wow.
And so that's my encouragement. I had no idea that would be their reaction. Again, I thought they'd never trust me again because that happened on my watch. But I did do the right thing with pure intention, and we blew up as a company.
Die for your investors. That's an awesome story. Can you talk to us, fast forwarding now with all the success you have achieved since that day? Talk to us about the present day success. You said earlier on the interview, you mentioned you're in a redemption season now, and you're just seeing some amazing things move and some things happen that are blowing you away. Can you give us a preface to that, a bit about last year and some of the losses that you guys experienced?
It's really kind of confidential right now, but in about 6 months, I'll be able to share it with you if we do another podcast. But it's powerful. Quick and dirty is that I want to develop nations, and I've been asking God, how do you go from doing it over here and starting to do it overseas? And he's given me real strategy for that, and things that I've been working on forever are starting to happen. And so I can't wait to share them with you, but give me a couple months before I can actually share that publicly.
Did that strategy appear on the wall in writing, or was it in a dream? Because clarity provides a roadmap that people can then tear down. People listening are motivated. People listening are already doing stuff, own businesses, but maybe they're asking God for a strategy for that next season, that comeback season. So can you give them a word of encouragement?
Yes. It's one word. Recalculating.
Wait, say it again.
Recalculating. So it's when you create this roadmap, when you create your vision of what you want to happen, you have to realize that you're only seeing a piece of the picture, because if God gave you the full picture, you would never begin, because it's so much bigger than you could ever do in your own strength that you would never believe it and you'd never start. And so I give myself grace, finally, this is all trained, by the way, that I don't have the full picture, but this is the direction we're going. We want to develop nations. Okay, where do we think we start? What do I think all the pieces are? And I have a whiteboard in every single room in my life, literally have them in my house. All over. And I have every single room in my office.
That's how you know you're dedicated. Your house decor is whiteboards.
It is. I'm a nerd that gets crap done.
Yep, there we go.
And I get it out of my head. So I map it out to the best of my ability, and then I put a timeline to it, and I just start working towards it. And instead of thinking I have to have all the pieces together, this is one of my biggest legs up over other people, is that everybody thinks I have to have it all figured out. I literally put a blank spot and say, I have to get to know what this piece is. And guess what I do? My top takeaway advice, I Google, what do I think goes in that box? And then I just start moving. Again, I learn while I'm moving. I do while I'm moving, instead of sitting back and only figuring it out. And so with that, obviously comes more mistakes and probably bigger risks than other people, but I get a lot more done in a ridiculous amount of time. So yeah, that's the answer.
Love it. Thank you, Britnie. It's powerful. Share with the audience how we can connect with you after this interview.
After this interview, the best way to connect with me is following my YouTube and also following me on Instagram. I am now, as of literally this month, I'm starting to teach my best business advice and how to get into real estate, all the way into how to develop nations. And then I've also got this funny little YouTube series that I'm doing called Busy and Ripped. And it's how do you run 5 companies, have a social life, travel the world, do relief work for a week of every single month, and stay healthy and ripped. And it's pretty much me on the journey of learning all the health tricks and tips and then showing you how to apply them while being busy as crap with a million excuses to not work out. So thank you so much for having me, Jonathan. And I look forward to connecting with you in a couple months and telling you these great big secrets.
Yeah, same here. And I'm really excited to see where the YouTube channel goes. Not only the healthy and ripped one, but I think you're going to meet a big need and a niche with real estate and developing third world countries.
Thank you, Jonathan. Bye, guys.
Congratulations on making it to the end of this episode. What about this episode stood out to you? Next, I need your help sharing this show. I want this podcast to impact and reach 6,000 people per episode by August 31st, 2019. And I want us to reach 15,000 people per month by March 29th, 2020. Have you been enjoying multiple episodes of The Heart Healthy Hustle? I'm thrilled to share with you an exclusive invitation to join our new Facebook community. To get to know other Heart Healthy Hustlers, simply go to thehearthealthyhustle.com/Facebook, where you can expect to see different members of our community being featured weekly in Facebook Live calls. I appreciate all of your love and support, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, be generous on every occasion. There is a story for you, and live wide open.